Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon, a company run by Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer, sponsor of the Black Knight Nation podcast. Check our YouTube channel out. Man, our Facebook is crazy right now. Remember that video of the coaches arguing for UTSA that we put up? It has over 1 million views on Facebook. It's nuts. It's crazy. That's viral. But we're not talking UTSA anymore. We're going to talk about Army Navy. We're going to talk about Army going to the Fenway Bowl. And here's our cast of our crew here. We have Cuthbert from Sidelines Army. We have Seth Mendelson from Black Knight Nation. We have Cam Holloway, former Army offensive lineman, checking in with us again. And our special guest for the first part of this podcast is Bill Wagner, Navy beat writer for the Capital Gazette. Bill, you've been covering Navy football for as long as I've been born, I think. No, I'm kidding. But you do such a great job with Navy football, and we want to have you on to talk about Navy season and what we can expect from the midshipmen heading into this game. I know they were very close to getting to the American Conference Championship game this year, and really have played, I think, their two best games toward the end of the season against South Florida and Memphis. Maybe you could fill us in a little bit about what your read is of Navy heading into this game Saturday in Baltimore.
Well, obviously, it's been a tremendous season for Navy, and they started very strong. Obviously, we knew that the schedule was easier on the front end than the back end, and obviously, Navy started off 6-0 and got bowl eligible, but then things got tougher. The month of November was very difficult. Road game at North Texas, road game at Notre Dame, then home game against South Florida, road game at Memphis. So that's three of the top teams in the American plus Notre Dame. And there was a possibility Navy could lose all four of those November games. They did not play well at North Texas and lost. And that was a game in which Navy really left a lot of opportunities. They had a fumble in the red zone that was lost. Blake Horvath threw an interception at the goal line. I mean, there was another interception when they were in plus territory in North Texas territory. So it was just a lot of points left on the board. Navy could easily have won that game, in my opinion. And then they lost to Notre Dame. That was ugly. Notre Dame is just a superior team, and it just not a surprise. And that was a game where Brian Newberry chose not to start Blake Horvath. He got banged up a little bit against North Texas, and there was really no reason for him to suffer more pounding against Notre Dame. So they started Braxton Woods in the backup because the South Florida game the following week was more important. And to Navy's credit, they really showed up in the last two games of the season. South Florida's outstanding. In my opinion, they may have some of the best talent in the entire American Conference. They are loaded, and Navy was able to pull out a 41-38 victory over South Florida. And then in the final game of the year, they had to beat Memphis in order to remain in contention for the American Conference Championship. They went down to the Liberty Bowl and played a tremendous game. They shut out Memphis in the second half. Memphis had a 51 straight games of scoring 20 points or more. Navy snapped that streak, beat them 28-17, an outstanding win, tremendous defensive performance. And in the second half, the offense really just ran over Memphis and wore them out with the ground game. So two very big wins to close out the season. Of course, we all know they tied for first place in the American Conference, but did not get into the championship game because of tiebreakers. Tulane had the CFP ranking, which gave them precedent. And then obviously head-to-head, North Texas beating Navy head-to-head. But, I mean, overall, Navy will take a 9-2 record at this point, chance to have 10 wins for the second straight season if they can beat Army and or win a bowl game. They just announced that they'll play in the Liberty Bowl against Cincinnati, their former American Conference foe.
Yeah, you know what? Thinking about this season with Navy and how maybe the roles were reversed last year a little bit, with Army having the 12-win season. Well, finished with 12 wins, and they were the American Conference champions. And Navy this year are on the brink of the American Conference championship game. And you look at, like, okay, Navy was, I guess, the underdog last year and had its way with Army. And this year, Navy doesn't get to the American championship game. I don't know if that's good or bad, Bill, because now they have an extra week to go, to practice for the Army Navy game, which I'm sure they practice all year long for it. But what's kind of your take? I mean, I know this is the number one goal. American Conference Championship is nice, but I think the number one goal is the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, at least on our side for Army. Is it the same at Navy?
Absolutely. But they do want to play in that conference championship game. That is a big goal as well. But I will posit that it's very, very difficult to play in an American Conference Championship game, then turn around 1 week later and play Army or Navy, depending on which one we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And both times, it's happened twice. Navy played the American Conference Championship game, got beat up by Temple, lost their starting quarterback. That was the game that ended the streak. Army beat Navy at M&T Bank Stadium. Navy's playing a sophomore quarterback making his first career start, Zach Abey. This past year, I know that we did not see Army's best effort in that Army-Navy game, and I have to believe that the American Conference Championship took something out of Army. That's an incredibly physical game with Tulane, and it just turning around 7 days later and playing your most physical game. It's very, very difficult. I guarantee you, Army doesn't play in the American Conference Championship game. We see an entirely different Army-Navy game and a much better Army team. It is, there's no way that Navy would dominate both lines of scrimmages the way they did against Army if Army had not just played Tulane the week before. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Guys, anybody with questions from Bill?
Yeah, Bill, I have a question for you. Navy's been pretty good for a few years now, and it seems they have a bunch of seniors on the team this year. Blake Horvath, of course, but it's not just him. Take us through a little bit about the Navy, the individuals on the Navy team that we need to watch out for, and why.
Well, on the offensive side of the ball, 2 years ago, they put out a group of sophomores that are now the nucleus of the offense. Blake Horvath, Alex Texa, the fullback, Eli Heidenreich, the slot back. They call him a snipe now at Navy. I'm not quite sure why, but it's a slot bag. Those three guys are the heart and soul of the offense. Yeah, you're talking about, like 75% of the production. And then I'm sorry, I'm leaving out another important person that played as a sophomore and is now as every bit as critical as those three. They're the big three, and kind of left overlooked is Brandon Chapman, the other snipe, who is outstanding and does a lot of the dirty work, doesn't get the credit he deserves. Chat is an awesome player, but you're talking about a group that came up together, took their lumps as sophomores when Navy had a losing season, and then the last 2 years have just been tremendous. And Blake Horvath is a far better quarterback than anyone imagined he would be. Brian Newberry, the head coach, has said that he remembers when Blake Horvath was a freshman, he wasn't sure if Blake Horvath would ever be able to play for Navy. He didn't throw the ball very well. He was an option quarterback. He had come from an option background, so he showed some signs there. But just overall, as Newberry analyzed, and at the time, Newberry was the defensive coordinator, but as he evaluated Horvath, he thought, I'm not sure this guy could ever play for us. And now look at him. He's being mentioned among the greatest quarterbacks in Navy history, along with Keenan Reynolds, Ricky Dobbs, Malcolm Perry. He is a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate. They sent him a letter, said, you are a candidate and a potential finalist. He's a finalist for the Davy O'Brien Award. He's the finalist for the Academic Heisman, the Campbell Trophy. So Blake Horvath has been an incredible leader and the straw that stirs the drink. I don't know if you saw the Memphis game where he was rolling out to his left on a short pass play on the goal line, and he shovel passed. He flipped the ball. I mean, that's the kind of creativity and just heads up type of play that Blake has shown. He's so smart, knows the offense so well. He's like another coach on the field. And then Eli Heidenreich's going to the NFL. I guarantee you he will have a shot to play in the NFL. He is that good. He is A-grade legit. He'll probably be a slot receiver in the NFL. He's pretty much their primary receiver. That when they're throwing the ball, they're looking to throw it to Eli. He's just a great player, and Texas is pretty daggone good himself. So that's the weapons there. They're not using the tight end and wide receiver very much. Drew Cronick wishes he could. His offense really, if to hum well, needs to incorporate tight end and wide receiver. They're important parts of his millennial wing T offense, but Navy just isn't there quite yet with those two positions, and they're not very productive. So that's basically your offense. Blake Horvath, Alex Texas, Eli Heidenreich, and Brandon Chapman. And on the defensive side of the ball, obviously the key guy, Landon Robinson, nose guard, a movable force up front, American Conference Player of the Year. The inside linebacker, who's a sophomore, Mark Anthony Parker, has been tremendous, leads the team in tackles. He has really emerged as a sophomore and is one of their best players. So those are kind of the top guys on defense. It's more of a collective effort defensively. Secondary have been very weak most of the season, improved against South Florida and Memphis, but still a question mark. But that's not really an issue in this game. I don't think Army's going to be looking to throw it deep on Navy like some of these other American Conference opponents.
Okay, so my other question, I'll let you guys ask questions too, is you may not want to help us on this one, but how does Army win? How does Army contain these guys, and how do you think Army can win the game? Sal, what's the line on the game right now?
5.5. It's up to 5.5 now, Navy.
5.5 points. Okay, so almost a one touchdown favorite. How does Army beat Navy?
They got to win the line of scrimmage. That's the key in this game, both sides of the ball. I mean, and the Navy did it last year. Landon Robinson and crew, I couldn't believe the way that they stymied that incredible offensive line for Army that won the Joe Moore Award. And that was another, Sal was mentioning some of the similarities. Navy leads the nation in rushing this season, and they won that Joe Moore Award. So the first thing you do is you dominate that offensive line. And I don't think it is out of the question that offensive line has played way better than any of us expected. They're young. They've got Ben Purvis, the senior at left guard, who was a second-team All-American Conference selection. But other than that, they're incredibly young. They've got a sophomore left tackle. They've got a freshman right tackle. The last two games, they've been starting a sophomore right guard. And Cam Nichols, their center, was a guy that, they tried to give him a shot last year, and he wasn't up to the task, and they ended up benching him, and he didn't play the second half of the season. And then he missed the entire August camp with an injury. So Cam Nichols is another guy that he's a junior, but he might as well be a sophomore in terms of playing experience. So that is a very young offensive line. And as I mentioned, we're all shocked. I'm writing a feature actually this week about how we can't believe how good this offensive line has been all season and leading Navy to being the leading rushing team in the country. But, they're only as good as their last game. And Army, if they do what Navy did to Army's offensive line last year, that can change the game.
Thank you.
I do have a quick question. I think last year, not to take anything away from Navy last year, because they were a very good team, obviously to the point you had made earlier, having that extra week to prepare, not only just to get rested up, but also to do some scheming. I think in general, we see from the Navy offense, it's a little bit looser, a little more wide open in terms of some of the different sort of tricks up their sleeve, not trick plays necessarily, but just sort of their base offense is a little more varied than Army's is. Just out of curiosity, given the success that Woodson has had this year, both coming off the bench, he has sprinter speed. Do you think that Newberry would concoct some sort of game plan that might incorporate him to some degree, just as we don't expect Army to be preparing for this, and that'll help give us an edge? Is that something you think we could see out of Newberry?
Well, actually, and really you're talking about Drew Cronick, because Drew Cronick, the offense coordinator, has full control of the offense. Brian Newberry gives him a lot of leeway to do what he wants. Drew Cronick, I should start with this. Drew Cronick has been the difference maker for Navy. You want to know why they've won 19 games over the last two seasons? They brought this guy in, and he is running an offense that nobody in the FBS has seen. It's this millennial wing T, and Newberry asked him to incorporate triple option elements so that Navy could stay true to its roots. But the wing T elements, the jet sweeps, the passing game, there's a lot of passing elements that have proven critical in these service academy games against Air Force and Army. So you're talking about Drew Cronick, and yes, he has used Braxton Woodson quite a bit. they'll line him up as a wide receiver and put him in motion and pitch him the ball or hand him a jet sweep. He scored a touchdown against South Florida doing that. He, they've used him to come in and kind of be a wildcat quarterback. So yes, there is packages to incorporate Braxton Woodson, who is absolutely a weapon. I mean, you saw what he did against Florida Atlantic when he came off the bench, and Navy Horvath had cramps, and they had to turn to Braxton, and he won the game for him with some long runs. So Braxton Woodson is a heck of a player, and yes, I'm sure that Army's planning, game planning to possibly see him in some sort of role. Again, they've used him as a fullback. They've used him as a wide receiver. They've used him in the slot. So they will throw him out on the field periodically. Now, what I don't think they will probably do is use him too much as a quarterback. In a game like this with minimal possessions, more than likely, I don't think you want to take Blake Horvath off the field very often in terms of playing quarterback. But I could see Braxton getting into the game at some other position and having some gimmick plays run for him.
Thank you.
Cam, you got a question for Bill?
Not so much of a question, but to that point, I think in these games, like you said, how does Army stop Navy? And it's always simple, especially in CIC games. You have to be the more physical team. And last year, they just got out physical. And that's just the fact of the matter. I think one thing that's going to work for Navy well is Blake Horvath. And to me, you don't need to do anything that's too out of the ordinary. Do what works. And that's what Army tried to do last year. Didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it, but you have to do what works. And if it's me and I'm Navy, I'm not doing anything too crazy. I'm not putting in a special game plan. I'm going to line up across from you and whip your ass for 4 quarters, and then I'm going to run the football. That's all you need to do in these games. You don't need to get too fancy. It's Army football versus Navy, like the brotherhood, who's tougher. That's how you win these football games. So me personally, that's what I would do. Whoever controls the line of scrimmage, like you said, they're going to win the football game.
Yeah, I look at you may say with the running game, but Eli Heidenreich is such a passing weapon for Navy, right? Billy has over 800 yards receiving. I mean, you don't see that from many academy players get that much and have that much of an impact on the game. So they'll probably try to give him the ball in space too, I'm guessing, in the run game too, I'm guessing, Bill.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the difference that Drew Cronick has brought. For years and years, these service academy games have been played in a phone booth because both teams are trying to run the ball. The defenses know how to contain the option. They've seen it so much. So whether it's Air Force Army, Navy Air Force, Army Navy, they're these smash mouth football games where both teams trying to literally bang their head against the wall, trying to run against a team that knows how to stop the option. With Drew Cronick coming in here with this wing T that has so many other elements, so many different plays, and it's a lot of misdirection. What makes the wing T is that it's where's the ball. There's all sorts of motions. There's all sorts of different formations, and it's all find the ball. Where's the ball? And that's what Drew Cronick is so very good at. And they will run a lot of different plays out of the same formations. So you think you're seeing one thing, but you're getting something else. And so that's why Navy has hit so many explosive plays. Look at the last 2 seasons, and their number of explosive plays are off the charts. I think they lead the nation in plays of 60 yards or more. They're among the national leaders in plays of 30 yards or more. They hit explosive plays, which, Sal, you and I talked offline when I called you last week, and you said that's a big issue for Army. Not enough explosive plays. And at the Army-Navy presser, I asked Coach Monk, and he said, yeah, you can kind of count them on one hand. Not been there. We've had to grind it out. And that's what's so hard to do in these games, grinding it out. You're getting 15-play, 80-yard drives against Army or Navy is very difficult. You need the explosives to get you down the field, and that's one thing that Navy has with this wing T that I don't know that Army has. That's to me a key element of this game.
For sure.
That concerns me that maybe there are plays that Navy hasn't even used this year yet that they have in the
I guarantee you there are, Seth. They save them up for Army. You can guarantee there's some things they haven't shown that have been saved specifically for this game.
Very hard to defense a team that you don't see. You don't know what they're going to do. And I agree with you. Their offenses. I've watched just about every Navy game either live or on tape this year. I don't think I've missed one. And it's amazing what they've done. When with the exception of Notre Dame, which is a totally different animal, as we know. It's amazing what they've done with their offense. It's you don't know what they're going to do. And I agree with you. You don't know who has the ball half the time until the guy's 10 yards down the field.
Well, perfect play that I would mention is their little tight end play to Cody Howard. It's a play where they show that 90% of the time the tight end is a blocker there. One time he slips out. He fakes like he's blocking, and then he slips out and runs a short little crossing pattern and it's a pass, and he goes for 80 yards. That's the kind of stuff they do. Everything looks the same until it's different. And, you mentioned about plays. I will give Army some credit. Last year, they threw that little pop pass where Daly faked like he was running, and he was literally almost to the line of scrimmage and threw that little pop pass. That was a really good wrinkle that I don't know that you guys saw that all season, did you?
No.
Nah.
Not at all.
To that point, I can guarantee you that there are new wrinkles in the offense. I mean, you have 2 weeks to prepare for this game, and they're always trying to find the advantage of, how can I run the triple option better than what Navy has seen. So, but I have to caution that, and I think that was one thing that was always so frustrating is, like I said before, the simple things work. What got you there all season, that works. So putting together these new packages and these new different plays that you don't really have too much time to work on, sometimes it doesn't work out. And so I understand that they're trying to be creative and put new wrinkles in it, but I just don't necessarily think that needs to be done. Like maybe one or two, but a lot of the times I don't think that the new plays that are put into the packages just for Army Navy week end up working. I mean, you'll work on 10 or 15 new plays and maybe run 2 of them in the game, and then they don't even work. So it's like you don't need to do it. And they often, and I know this from experience because it happened to us my senior year. We had a play that we put in and it didn't work all week at practice, and then we go in there and we call it, and just like it practice, it didn't work. And so we got away from what was working, which was running the football and running the fullback, and we end up losing the game. So.
Well, Bill, I want to ask you before you leave, Bill, I want to ask you a little bit about the experience of coaching Army Navy. I've been to a ton of games. You've been to probably more than I have in Army Navy games, and what it's like. Maybe you could tell our viewers or the people that are not familiar with the Army Navy game. It's the most storied rivalry in college football, in my opinion. Just want to get your take on what it's like and covering this game.
Well, so I've been on the Navy beat since 2001. So obviously I've done every Army Navy game from then till now, but I also went to several Army Navy games as the backup guy or the sidebar guy, if you will, back when my predecessor, Joe Gross, was on the Navy beat. So I've probably done close to 30 Army Navy games. It never gets old. I mean, it's an incredible atmosphere. It's an incredible experience. And every year the game means so much to so many, not just the players and coaches on the field, but the entire Brigade of Midshipmen Corps of Cadets and everyone who serves in the Army and Navy. It's a monumental game that has such absolute critical importance. And when you win, the euphoria is beyond belief. And when you lose, it's crushing. And it's just, there's nothing like it. It is the best sporting event in America, in my opinion. And especially in this era of college football. We just had a Brian Newberry presser to talk about the Liberty Bowl, and one of the reporters was saying is they're bringing up about all these teams declining to play in bowl games, which I just cannot even believe. We got approaching double-digit schools that will not play in bowl games or refusing to do so. And I like what one of my friends posted. If you're getting paid to play football, I don't think you have the right to decline to play in a bowl game. You're getting paid, brother. I mean, do NFL players decline to play in the playoffs? I mean, this is unbelievable to me. But somebody said to Brian Newberry, I guess, no thoughts of declining a bowl game. And he's like, are you kidding me? This is where it's a service academy. And that my point is that there's the last bastion of truly amateur athletics where these guys are playing for the love of the game. They're playing for the name on the front of the jersey and not on the back. They're playing for their brothers. That's what makes this game so special. And more in this era of college football, this game's a rarity. So I love it. I can't wait for Saturday. It's going to be awesome. I had one quick question for you guys. You know, I talked to Coach Monken, and he was praising his quarterback, Cale Helms, and saying what it does. You know, guy was a third-string quarterback coming out of spring camp, going into August camp. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards, but he said the one issue is not throwing the ball effectively. If put in a position where Army has to throw the ball in this game, do you feel like Cale can get the job done? And I know they do have one receiver who's kind of been their go-to guy, but I mean, I think at some point you're going to have to throw the ball, right?
You do have to throw the ball to win this game because Navy's secondary, like you said, Bill, is okay, but you can beat Navy's secondary.
They're going to be in one-on-one coverage, Sal. They're going to load the box up and put these guys in one-on-one coverage. I think you've got to test their corners.
And what is Navy's propensity to blitz? Because based on this season, I would say Cale Helms is at his best as a passer when he's under pressure and scrambling. It's not when he does a 4-step drop and sets his feet and aims for a target. It's when he's about to get sacked and he's rolling out and he's got to throw it sidearm and somehow he puts it exactly where it needs to go. So hopefully they're going to be blitzing on plays that Army's going to be passing because that's when Helms seems to do his best in the air.
Yeah, I don't see them trying to blitz a lot early. I would imagine they're going to try to get pressure with a 4-man front, knowing that they got to stop the run first and foremost at all times. So, you know, it's a little bit different than playing some of these other American teams that go 4 and 5 wide and, you know, they're dropping back every time and trying to get the ball out quick. That's a little bit different. So I don't necessarily see Navy trying to blitz a lot, but, you know, I do think your Helm's going to have to beat them with the passing game at some point to win this game.
Well, they're going to have to use more than just Brady Anderson and even Noah Short to beat Navy. Part of the problem with Army's passing game is they rely on 1 or 2 guys for receivers, and I think we're going to have to see. And I wouldn't be surprised if Army utilizes more receivers in this game. So I agree with you. I think that Helms is going to have to 150 yards plus for Army to be in this game. I have a quick question for you before you go. No, we appreciate you taking the time out. What do you think keeps the Navy coaches awake at night this week in terms of what are they afraid of in terms of Army?
The running game. They are fully respectful of Army's running game, and they know that when Army comes to play and their offensive line's coming off the ball, they're hard to stop. And quarterback between the tackles, and Noah Short is a dangerous weapon on the perimeter. Oh no, they're concerned about stopping the run. That I guarantee you, everything in the game plan is stop the run first and foremost, and it's going to be up to Landon Robinson up front, the nose guard, and his compatriots. The front seven's got to win the line of scrimmage. They did last year. Doesn't mean they're going to do it again this year. They got some new parts. They got 2 very young linebackers, 2 sophomores playing there. So, it's not a guarantee that Navy's going to win the line of scrimmage again this year on either side of the ball. Again, they have a young offensive line. They got, if the starting lineup is what it has been for the last 2 games, they're going to have 2 sophomores and a freshman playing their first game against Army. Cam Nichols, the starting center, first game against Army. So you got 4 offensive linemen, never been in this game before. And same thing on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of young faces. You got Julia Mudeme at defensive end is a sophomore, first game against Army. So really the only veteran guys that have been around are Griffin Willis and Landon Robinson, the D tackle and the nose guard. But most of the guys behind them are first game against Army. So that to me, winning the line of scrimmage is the key, and Army has every bit of capability to do it as does Navy.
Okay. Real quick question, if you don't mind me. NIL, how is that affecting the Naval Academy?
Not at all. They get paid. the Navy players and the Army players are getting paid by the government. It's part of being a midshipman and a cadet. And it's just part of the service academy deal is that if you're a government employee, you cannot accept outside employment without permission from the government. And so it's not an issue, and the players don't seem to care. I mean, they have been sold on the idea that the payoff is down the road, that their NIL is when they graduate from the Service Naval Academy or West Point, and they're going to be guaranteed a job for life if they want to stay in the service. But if they get out, more than likely, I don't know too many Army or Navy grads who have not done pretty well in terms of their career and financially. I mean, you're set up for life when you graduate from these academies, and I think that's what they sold these players on. And most of them are not even recruited by Power 4 schools or even some of the top Group of 5 schools. So they probably weren't getting NIL money anyway. And Navy's not had a lot of transfers. I don't know about our Army has lost Udo and some other guys. Navy hasn't had that happen. Don't ask me why, but Ray Lane, a perfect example. He was a guy that had shown as a sophomore that he was A-grade legit. He had offers from Notre Dame. He had offers from UCLA, several others. He decided to stay. At the time he's decided to stay, there was no path to the NFL. They had shut it down. Now, as it turned out, when he graduated, he got lucky. They changed the rule. The Congress changed the rule, and he's playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But that's a guy that made a decision as a sophomore. Well, I guess I should say as a junior, really. But after his sophomore year, he chose not to transfer, stayed it out with Navy. And I'm not sure what they're doing to keep guys like that here, but they're not leaving.
Thank you. We'll see you on. I'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah,
All right,
excellent point, Bill. Thanks so much for your time. And more than the rivalry, I really appreciate the friendship that you and I have built through the years. Really appreciate you coming on. You're the best, man. Thanks for giving us a half an hour of your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're the best, Kyle. And I want to tease to all the Black Knight Nation and the fans listening that we're going to have Sal on my podcast, the Anchors Away podcast that covers all things Navy athletics, to talk Army football, and that'll be out later this week. So I appreciate you're doing that, Sal.
Absolutely, man. See you in Baltimore, Bill.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate having Bill Wagner on. That was great to get Navy's side of things. Now we could talk a little bit more about Army and what they need to do and what they're looking forward to on Saturday. Guys, just just some initial thoughts on just hearing about Navy and what they're bringing to the table. We know they've had a good season. We know they're on the brink. They're on the brink of the American championship game. We know they have Blake Horvath and a really strong offense. They average a lot of points. They give up points in some games too. So, I mean, what was your takeaway from that, Seth?
I'm not surprised with anything he said. They're a good team. They're a very good team. They're 9-2. They've only, Notre Dame is a different league, and they lost that game, and they only lost one game in conference. They could have been in the championship game if the tiebreaker was different. Just a very good team that the Army coaches are going to have to figure out how to beat. And if they're going to go in with a strategy that is just pushed up the middle, it's not going to go anywhere, I don't think. I mean, unless the line just really dominates, and I don't see that. They're going to have to be putting their thinking caps on. I'm sure they did over the last week and a half. And we're going to see a different team here. I will say this: Army seems to have played better on the road than they did at home this year. They seem to try different things. They did it with Kansas State. They did it with UTSA. They did it with Tulane. They didn't win the Tulane game, but they still tried that. And up until the last 2 minutes of the game, I should say, maybe that's it. Maybe the key here is being away from Mikey and being on the defense, being the underdog and trying different things. So I'm hoping and I'm expecting Army to come out with their own different kind of playbook. Much like they did, was it Air Force? Was it 2 years Air Force when they were undefeated? That was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And they came out with a whole different type of offense. That's and it worked. They won. So let's hope again.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Cuthbert?
Well, I mean, looking at this, I think Army's defense is better than Navy's defense. on the whole. However, I think Navy's offense is significantly stronger than Army's offense. So, our strength is our defense, relatively speaking. Theirs is their offense. It's going to be. I honestly think it's going to come down to the creativity of the offense. I am nervous that we may see something of a repeat from last year. Obviously, they had an extra week to get themselves rested up and to do some scheming. We didn't have that luxury going to the championship game. And so as a result, a much better Army team, in my opinion, was hamstrung. Well, now this year we have those 2 extra weeks, but we are not the team that we were last year, not on offense. And honestly, maybe not even on defense. I think the only question I had for Bill that I didn't have a chance to ask was what happened in the Navy Air Force game that turned that game into a track meet. Army and Navy has hit the under for the over-under every year for 15 years, with exception to the 1 year that we went to overtime. So in 60 minutes of regulation, this is a fight in a phone booth, and it's a low-scoring game. What happened in that game that made that game into a track meet? I don't think Army is equipped to maintain a track meet this season, but as Bill said, given the weakness in their secondary, maybe we need to be airing the ball out a little bit more. Maybe we need to be putting it in the air some. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a very, very hard fought game. I can tell you that the Navy offense does appear to be a juggernaut. Not just in their victory last year, but in what they've been able to achieve this year between Horvath, Tesga, and Heidenreich.
Yeah, Camo, I want to ask you a question about offensive line play because last year we saw the game was kind of dominated on both lines of scrimmage by Navy, and Landon Robinson is a big part of that, Navy's nose tackle. And I look at, okay, here we got the head-to-head matchup. Landon Robinson at nose tackle, Brady Small, 3-year starter, first-team American Conference center on the Army side. But do you think there will be it won't just be Brady Small alone that will be kind of assigned to neutralize Robinson? I mean, I'm guessing there'll be some double teams in there to try to get that inside running game going for Army.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of great points have been made. But again, it all goes back to how hard are you willing, to go for 4 quarters to win this football game at the end of the day. And I think what they're asking these guys to do are come in and win your one-on-one battles. Obviously, you're going to have your chances to get some double teams, some combo blocks out there. But at the end of the day, when my 5 guys line up, can I whip the guy across from me by myself? Like, you have to do your own part. And so, I mean, there's going to be a little bit of double teaming, but I'm fully confident in Brady Smalls being able to handle his own against that nose guard. I mean, he's a really good player, but so is Brady Small. And if it's me, I keep it very simple. I do think that we should use, the perimeter, get some speed on the perimeter, but in a game that's going to be such a low scoring game and such a close game, especially with as good as offense as Navy has had, not only last year, but this year as well. I just find it hard to believe that they don't stick to what's been working. Run the hell out of Helms, see if you can get something going, and then control the clock and just try and make it a very physical football game and see who wants to be the more physical team. Because when you get to trying to do all this super flashy stuff and putting in these new packages and then it doesn't work, well, then you're going to be reverting back to what did work. It's like, okay, well, now they figured us out. We've hit them with our best shot. We have nothing else. So let's go back and let's run, Helms. Let's try and get it outside. They don't really run the fullback too much, in my opinion. It's all the Cale Helms show. So I think that's what I start with. And I see if we can get something going with the quarterback. What he has, 20 carries a game almost. I run it with.
He's second in the nation in carries.
Yeah, like it's ridiculous. I run it with him, and I challenge the guys in the locker room to say, hey, we went out there. We didn't play a great game last year. Well, we've had 364 days to think about it. Go out there and show me how bad you want it. That's what I would do.
Hey, Seth, do you remember the first day of preseason practice, Army players or had the T-shirts on with the date 12/13/25 on them?
Yep,
I
sure.
mean, this thing is, they want to take care of business in this game probably since the final whistle last year. It's been on their minds, and you look at you look at. I wanted to ask you about just guys, the defense. This defense. We're talking about how well they have to play, right? Well, there's been games where they were phenomenal. They have missed barely any tackles. And there's been games where they missed 20 or more tackles in the game. So here Walter makes the point here that if Army's defense hits like they did against Air Force, he feels good. I mean, it's going to come down. Cam and Cuthbert and Seth can answer it. Fundamentals, right? I mean, it seems like it's so cliche of an answer sometimes when Jeff Monken and the players say, well, we have to work on our fundamentals. We have to get better. But in a game like this, if all 11 are not on the same page, things, not good things can happen. So I don't know about your guys' thoughts with the defense and maybe that storyline.
Well, I think the over. What is the over under, Sal? Do we know that? I'm sure
I can get you, and I'm not sure. It's probably higher than it's ever been because Navy is a pretty good scoring team. It's probably in the 40s, I'm guessing. I don't think it's as.
I'm looking at Navy's schedule here. They gave up 31 to Temple and to Air Force. They've given up 24 to UAB, 23 to Tulsa. They give up some points here. 32 to FAU. Yeah, they're winning the games. So
they gave up 27 a game.
Yeah, 27 a game. That's higher than Army does, and Army's defense. So I think this is going to be a shootout. I mean, actually, I want it to be a shootout because I think that the higher the score, I think the Army has a better chance of of winning the game. If it's a low scoring game, Navy's going to put up 3-4 touchdowns. We don't have a great offense this year. We're averaging under 20 or about 20 a game, I believe, and
23.
23. Okay, that's it's
a lot less than their 32.
So again, they're 32, right?
Yeah, they're 32 a game. We're 23 a game.
Right. So they're gonna put up their points. We're gonna have to put up our points, and that means opening up this offense because up the middle runs by Kale. They're gonna be ready for that. We're gonna have to try it, and I'm confident. I'm hopeful that our coaches are aware of something. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's something else. I'm hoping it's not going to be the same old Army. And they show that. They show that at certain games. They showed it against K-State. And they showed it against Air Force, So let's hope they showed something here. I think they will.
You know what? You don't have to take the huge shot down the field every pass. You can throw the underneath stuff to move the chains and be successful. And we said it again in the UTSA review. And I think Demetrius Perry, former Army fullback, was in the comments saying, Samari Howard has the ability to contribute on this team. They gave him the ball a little bit more against UTSA. Maybe they could find some open space with him. It doesn't always have to be Noah Short. And you know what? To me, guys, I think the X factors here is Briggs Bartosh. If Briggs Bartosh can play, then that gives you a different dynamic at fullback. That gives you a guy that's going to maybe break off a bigger run. With all due respect, Jake Rendina and Carson Smith, and now God's power, we haven't seen many runs over 10 yards from those guys. You need to if you're going to soften up the middle so you can throw a little bit, and you don't want to bang Cale Helms against the wall 35 times a game. Fullback has to play a role in this game somehow. Even if they get
an update on Bartosh,
I don't have one really. I mean, during senior day, he was not dressed for the game, but he was waiting on the sidelines when his brother's name was announced and his parents were with his brother. I don't know. I really don't know if the injuries, foot, leg, ankle related. I just hope. It seemed like he could be back, but I don't know if we're not at West Point. I don't know if he's practicing. Man, if he can get on the field somehow, or maybe they use Hayden Reed as a fullback again for heaven's sakes, and not put him at slot back just to block. Maybe they can run a wheel route to Hayden Reed like they were last year when he was a slot. I don't know. Something like Cam, we're not saying anything completely like these trick plays, I was going to ask you about these trick plays because I think that they practice these trick plays close to the start of the year and, save them for certain moments and games. Like, I don't know, as your player experience, if you're just practicing one halfback pass for a week, it's probably not going to, I mean, you need a little bit more time than 2 weeks sometimes for these plays to feel comfortable with, right? Maybe I'm off there.
Well, yeah, well, there's a whole bag of tools that you go through throughout the season, and your playbook is so vast and it's so deep. So you have so many different plays that you just pull out, for different schemes, and different teams each week. And so going into the Army Navy week, that week is just always something different because everybody's always on pins and needles. It seems like the coaching staff is more on pins and needles than the players are. And like I said, I just from personal experience, it seems like they always try to do a little too much than what works, And in this game, which I think is so important, why you don't have to do too much, is because it's the freaking Army Navy game. Like, this is the game that we want to play the game, especially for an offensive line. This is the game that I want to come in and I want to impose my will every single play. So I don't necessarily want to throw the football. I don't want to, do all this crazy. I'm like, no, coach, let's sit up and let's do what we do best. Let's run the football and let me impose my will for 4 quarters against Navy. And I think, like, I truly believe that you're going to see a very inspired, very physical Army football team that is going to dominate them for 4 quarters. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I think, what you said about like them trying to do things that they're really not comfortable with. I think at times they've done that this year. I think they see they can't move the ball the way they want to with their base plays, and they're trying plays that, they're trying anything, the reverse plays, the end arounds, the passes on second down when you don't need the pass really. I don't know. I just hope that they stay whatever game plan they have, Cam. I just hope they stick with it. I just hope they stick with it. And like you say, don't veer too far from it. We have a lot of comments here from, we appreciate everybody watching. AJ, Fitzpatrick, Seth and I will be in Baltimore. We really appreciate you listening, watching, commenting, and all that stuff. Is there anything more that we have to say, guys, on this Army-Navy game? Is there something that you are specifically looking for in a player, or is there a phase of the game that you think will be important? We haven't talked about these fake punts that Navy usually has in these games that, Diego Fago, Landon Robinson last year. To me, here's my idea, guys, and maybe I'm just you put Eric Ford on one side when they're punting, you put Caleb Fortner on the other side when they're punting, and you dare them to run those plays because at times they've got the advantage on a smaller, like gunner, so to speak, outside special teams player, blocked him or stiff-armed him, big run. I think that maybe you leave your defense out on the field is what I'm saying, and maybe have a bigger presence on the outside. Maybe I thought about that too much. I don't know what you think.
I'd definitely be game for that and just say, look, we're not even going to put a return man back, and the ball's going to land where it's going to land. And if we get it on the 5, we get it on the 5, but we're not going to worry about it because I can't take another one of those effing fake punts. I will say the one thing that I'm going to be looking for, and this is not the first time it's been mentioned, but the matchup of Landon Robinson against Brady Small, that I think is going to be the most critical matchup of the game, because if we can neutralize Robinson, especially because our offense is so focused, in particular in interior runs, that could be the difference. So that is one thing I will be looking at intently.
Seth, you got anything?
No, I don't know what to expect here. I'm just hoping that they have something that makes sense, that shakes Navy up. I'm looking at the spread, by the way. It's the over/under is 39 points, 38 and a half to 39 points. Still pretty low. We gotta control the offensive line. Is the most important part of the game, as is the defensive line for the opposing team. Whoever controls that wins this game because you control the momentum, the flow of the game. I'm just hoping we do stuff differently. You mentioned about the punt. We got to be aware of everything. Navy's going to throw out something during this game. They'll probably throw out 3 or 4 different things, and Army has to be aware that these things may be coming, and everybody has to look, hey, it's the most important game of the year. They're going to play like it is, and we're going to play like it is.
I think another, maybe, I'm not going to say underlook, but maybe the corners for Army have to play well. Jaden Mays and Justin Weaver have to play well. The secondary has to play well. You can't give up that big play to Heidenreich. That's if they go over the top to Heidenreich for a big touchdown play, that's a punch to the gut right there. The secondary now, Nate Woody doesn't like to give up the big plays, right? He plays the defense. He plays particular schemes that don't give up big plays. Army hasn't given up many big plays on defense this year, but they can't afford one. The secondary has to be really good, and I think that they can win this game. Army can win this game if they get a big play from the defense or the special teams. The Noah Short, Jabril Williams block punt from 3 years ago, is that going to happen again? I don't know. Is Jaden Mays pick six going to happen for a second straight game? I don't know. But something there, a forced fumble deep in Navy territory, they got to change the field position to their advantage in this game, and they got to have a momentum-changing play. You can't, if this game is close, you look at what was really in the closer games in recent years, Cam and Seth and Cuthbert, about this. It's the goal line stands, right? It's a goal line stand, mostly in overtime that wins these games, right? Well, maybe not get to overtime, and let's take a goal line stand or stop them on fourth down stops are going to be huge in this game. If you Army, you better get it if you go on fourth down. A missed fourth down, no good on offense. And if Navy's going to go for it on their fourth and short, if you get to stop them and get that momentum on your side, I think that's pretty key.
I'll say over the after the season's over, I hope we look at their offense and maybe try to put some of their offensive plays into our offense for next year, because I watch them and I'm telling you, it's amazing. Yeah. They're like a bunch of magicians.
Real quick, I have a friend who watches the podcast, and when Bill was talking about Drew Cronick's impact on Navy and why they won 19 games, the offensive coordinator, he said Drew Cronick accomplished what Monken tried to do the year before last when he deviated from the flex bone. And then he brought in Drew Thatcher, right? And he was trying to find, I think, was Drew Cronick available that year? I think he might have been. I think he might have been a head coach in the FCS level, but I don't know. I mean, that past is the past, but they're doing, I guess, what Army wanted to do a couple of years back. Now Army's going back to a traditional, run heavy, pound the football type of offense, and we'll see what works. Let's get to need a spy on Horvath. Keep contained. Do you need a spy on Horvath, Cam?
No, I don't think you need a spy on Horvath. I think, obviously, we've talked about the trenches, but I think another big piece is just having the secondary come up and tackle. I mean, last season when you watched Blake Horvath, he had a phenomenal game. I mean, to me, it was almost very reminiscent of when Malcolm Perry was going and had the game that he had. I think it was 2019. I think is when he set a Army Navy record against us. But it's getting, once you do get past the front seven, which is, it's bound to happen, right? The secondary was not coming up and making tackles. They weren't being very physical, and Blake Horvath was either running through them or running by them. So you just got to be very, very physical in the secondary, wrap up, and hold on for dear life if you need it. So,
yeah,
no doubt. And Colin Madison's been a pretty good tackler in the secondary for them, and Casey Larkin has shown he can make plays near the line of scrimmage too. So do you cheat up a little bit, and we'll see what happens. Charles Starr, we want to get a couple comments here. Charles Starr, thanks for joining us, Charles. Appreciate it. Can't be one-dimensional and expect to win. That's not been our recipe for success the entire season. We need to give them everything we got. Absolutely. And we got how's Larkin? Anybody heard? Seth, we think he's going to play, right? We talked about this after UTSA. Casey Larkin got a little banged up, double stinger against UTSA, but Seth, he could play, right?
Yeah, we were told that he was fine after the game. It was a temporary thing, thank God, and we expect him to be out there. Yes.
Cool. I guess we're gonna put the Army Navy talk away right now. We're gonna talk about the big news of the day. Army going bowling, officially going to the Fenway Bowl, and they're gonna play UConn, 9-3 UConn, I believe. Believe it or not, Seth, I added this to your story. UConn is the defending Fenway Bowl champions.
Yeah.
They played last year against North Carolina before the Bill Belichick era started, and they beat the Tar Heels in the Fenway Bowl. So they're going to the Fenway Bowl for the second straight year that I know of. And Army, to me, I was hearing a lot of Armed Forces Bowl at the beginning of the week, but then when you see that some teams don't want to play in bowls, like a Kansas State and Iowa State, Notre Dame of all people, poor Notre Dame didn't get a college football playoff berth, so they decide they don't want to compete in a bowl. To me, this is me talking. I told my brother-in-law, who's an Irish fan, that I would be on this podcast and saying that that's kind of bull crap that they did that, but to each their own here.
It's soft for sure. It's soft.
Yeah, it's like Van Davis wants to know what happened to the ACC opponents. We were hearing possibly North Carolina State in the as Army's opponent in the Fenway Bowl. That didn't happen. I believe who they going? I think North Texas is playing North Carolina State. I could be wrong, but a team that finished higher in the standings than Army got North Carolina State, which is fair, I guess.
So Army was supposed to play Duke in this game, but when Duke won the ACC, they got a lot of interest from other bowls, and so I think Duke's playing out west someplace in a pretty good bowl. So then the talk became Georgia Tech, and they got scooped up at the last second, and then they went back to the tried and true. I mean, Army UConn will draw a decent crowd, we hope. It's the two local teams kind of. UConn's, besides Boston College, nobody's closer. So they're confident that this will get some sort of a crowd at Fenway, and then get some people watching on TV. Remember, ESPN puts these games together by and large, and they're looking to get. They have their reasons for everything. The fact that some teams said no, I think was it 3 teams that said no? Notre Dame.
No, you're almost over 7 that said no to the bowl game.
Who else said no besides Kansas State, Iowa State, and Notre Dame?
I don't have the list to be honest with you. Rutgers didn't go as a 5-7 team. I can get you the list.
Yeah,
if you want.
I'd be curious, but
Kansas State didn't play. Iowa State we talked about.
I knew those guys, but a lot of teams, their players are kind of revolting, saying we don't want. What are we playing in a minor bowl, and we got to stick around campus for 3-4 more weeks, and as one of you guys mentioned about them getting paid. Yeah, they get paid, but they sit there and say, "Hey, we got our paychecks already." A little bit of a revolt. As far as Notre Dame's concerned, I'm not surprised at all. They're annoyed, and they don't want to go play in the Pinstripe Bowl or whatever bowl they were getting into. Everybody probably wanted them, but they're like saying, "No, we're not a top 12 team. Forget it." That's Notre Dame's mentality.
By the way, good for James. Huh?
I think it's a good bowl game for Army. I think the Fenway Bowl against UConn. UConn's good, 9-3. They lost 3 games in overtime. All 3 games they lost were overtime. They beat Duke. They beat Air Force, and they beat Boston College. Air Force is our rival, and BC and Duke are from a Power 4 conference. So I think this is a good game for us, and I think they're going to come to play, by the way. Sometimes teams don't come to play in bowl games. I think UConn's going to come to play. They're always trying to make a name for themselves. By the way, they lost their coach, too. He went to Colorado State. I don't know if he's coaching this game or not. Does anybody know?
He's not. They have an interim coach. Gordon Samus, I believe, is the guy's name who's going to be coaching them. I put that in the story. Yeah,
they have something to play for. They want a 10-win season, and they want to let people know that they're trying desperately to get into a league. UConn, unlike Notre Dame, they're the only 2 independents left, as far as I know, and they want the American to take them. They'd love to go to the ACC. That's not going to happen as long as Boston College has a say. So they're hoping that somebody notices them, and they're proud. The last 2 years, I think they've won 18 games. So that's pretty good.
I agree with Seth. I think this is a great bowl game. I'm glad that it's against another regional team. I'm glad that the bowl is actually taking place in the region. As much fun as it is to, for them to go to Birmingham so they can play Fresno State. You know what I mean? I'm really happy it's not the Armed Forces Bowl. I have nothing against the Armed Forces Bowl, but it's like, please, not again. Just not again. So I think this is I think this is a really good draw. I did see some UConn fans on Twitter. They're a little salty about it. They're like, oh, we're going to have a bunch of transfers out. We're going to play against a triple option team. We don't know how to play triple option. What an insult. I don't know enough about UConn this year to know if that's really what's going to happen. Are they really going to lose a lot of transfer players? They did lose their coach. I couldn't tell you. All I know is bowl games still mean something at Army. So my thought is if the other team shows up and they go, well, we're going to be down 14 starters. Well, tough shit, because whether it's UConn or whether it's Marshall last year who pulled out, or Louisiana Tech, who ended up playing, they're all missing 10 or 12 people. Not my problem. Army is going to show up and they're going to play football because they're doing it for the love of the game. So, to me, honestly, the cynical side of me says the more starters the other team has transfer out, the more points we should put on the board to punish them for running such a poorly loyal program.
That's everybody in college football, though. UConn's a feeder program at this point.
That's true.
And they lose their coach, and the transfer portal opens, I believe, tomorrow.
No.
Yeah, it opens, I think, tomorrow, the next day. So you're going to hear across the country kids, jumping ship. Whenever it opens, it's before the game. It's well before the game, and you're going to hear kids, jumping all over the place.
What a terrible system.
Just a horrible system, and they can't change it because they have to give the kids opportunity to be there for the next semester, because theoretically they're still students. But UConn could lose a lot of players. Some will go to Colorado State with the coach, and others will be picked off by ACC and Big Ten and SEC teams who think they need somebody. This is what goes on everywhere. So UConn, I don't know the answer. We'll find out in a couple of days or a week. How many starters, how many good players are they losing? And they're not going to play in the bowl game. They're told not to play in the bowl game because they don't want to get injured. They want to go play for their new team, and they're probably getting a nice paycheck in almost every case.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty neat venue. I've never been to Fenway Park for a baseball game, so it gives Seth and I an option to actually cover a bowl game that we could drive to. I mean, we don't have to fly down to Dallas. I have to worry about, flights, hotels, and that kind of stuff. And, it should be interesting. It's a Saturday 2:15 game. It's a game that, if you're home, if you're an Army fan, you're home, pop on your TV a couple days after Christmas, clean up the Christmas tree, and watch some Army football, right? I mean, I don't know. It's cut through. That's what you'll be doing probably, right? Or not?
Well, unfortunately, this is on December 27th, which is a day that I am flying out of the country. So I don't know how or when I'm going to watch this game. TBD.
Oh man, I should have known that ahead of time. My bad. Cam, can you talk about the experience of a bowl game for an Army football player? Just what that might be like. What the guy, I know that this game coming up is the biggest game of the year for them, but to have that 13th game, that one extra game, how important is it to an Army football player?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm still a big believer in, not only for an Army football player, but for a college football player in general, that bowl games should still mean something to you. So when I hear all these teams that are pouting, Notre Dame's pouting because they didn't get into the college football playoffs and they had 12 opportunities to showcase, that they should have been a team to get in and they didn't. I find that very crazy. But football still means something for Army, for their service academies, and it's a big deal to go to a bowl game. I mean, just having the opportunity for some of these guys is going to be the last football game they ever play. And this is your chance to win a ring. It's a championship for us. And just the entire experience of a bowl game, going to a new city, spending a week with your teammates. Practice isn't as hard as it usually is because you're there to have fun. It's a bowl game is a reward. You're getting gifts, you're getting it's just so much cool stuff that goes into a bowl game. And so if you have the chance to play it, you work hard all season for it. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. And we do pretty well in bowl games. Usually I am happy that we don't have to go to the Armed Forces Bowl again. Not that we don't love the Armed Forces Bowl, but after a while, you do get tired of going to Dallas and playing the same game over and over again. So just having a new game for them. UConn's going to be a really good opponent. We've done pretty well against UConn in the previous years, and this year, they're depending on who all plays for UConn. I would expect for them for it to be a pretty good game. UConn can really throw it around the field, so I would I would tell the DBs to get ready because they do have some. They got some guys out there that can. Well, it's really only one guy. It's Skylar Bell, I believe his name is. He's a pretty good football player. But anytime you have the chance to win 10 games, you got to go for it. So
yeah, UConn will be. Go ahead, Seth.
No, I say, remember, Houston was a pretty good team when we played them a few years back, and we scored 70 on them because half their team left.
Exactly, that's very true.
Last year was the worst case situation with Marshall and the coach leaving and taking enough players and other kids going elsewhere. They couldn't field the team. We don't know what's going to happen here. We just hope that and this could happen to any team out there. It's not just the team Army's playing. Anybody, with the exception of Army and Navy, could lose a great deal of their players before the bowl game outside the 12 teams that made the championship. And they could sit there and say, we can't field the team. College sports has changed. Somebody put in, how do we feel about a one-time transfer rule? I don't know if that's on the table or not, but these kids can leave year after year. They can go, play. It could play for, Rutgers one year, Ohio State the next year, and then go to Penn State the following year, and each time get more money or less money depending on how well they play. Sometimes they're encouraged to transfer. So it's the whole thing has changed, and the only programs that haven't changed really are the 3 service academies at Division I.
Yeah, I think that I think you make a really good point. And it is because of the playoffs that some now it's looking like the bowl games that people are getting aren't necessarily the fun ones that everyone wants to play in. But I still do think that that it does mean a lot. And to be the devil's advocate, I do kind of feel bad for teams that have to play Army in a bowl game. I mean, I do. It's supposed to be a fun event, right? And usually where you go, it's freezing cold, and then you have to go out there and play usually a really good Army football team that runs the triple option. That's not fun for anybody. So God bless UConn, but they got to come into them as well.
And really wants to win too.
Yeah, like
a football team that really wants to win. And
exactly. Every time we get into a bowl game, we're always trying to win. So it means something.
Some teams just want to get the game over with and go home for a couple of weeks before the next semester. It's going to be interesting. We'll see over the next couple of days how many people from UConn leave. Or if anybody leaves from Army, by the way, that's possible too, right?
We'll see. Just the 5 and 7 teams that declined bowl bids were Florida State, Auburn, UCFS, Baylor, and Rutgers. They had a chance to play. I believe Georgia Southern was looking for somebody to play in the Birmingham Bowl. Is that right, Cuthbert? There was one bowl left, and Appalachian State stepped up. So we're going to have Sunbelt team versus Sunbelt team in a bowl game because nobody wanted to play.
Well, it speaks to the power of the booster now that so many teams, I would have assumed that, if at the end of the season you're told, oh, hey, by the way, for playing one extra game, you're going to get $500,000 for your athletic department. I would think that would be important. I mean, I know that sort of with this new renaissance of Army football, last 10 or 11 years since Monken got here, actually going to bowl games and getting that additional income for the athletic department, that was felt at Army. That was meaningful contributions to the athletic department. I think that because of NIL and because of boosters, it's teams go, you're going to give me what, 1.2 million? I'm sorry, I don't get out of bed for less than 2.5. You know what I mean? Because I don't understand. It's like, no, we're not going to go to the bowl game. It's like, you're not going to go to the bowl game. It's in, especially some of these smaller bowl games. These are bowl games that are going to happen before Christmas. It's like 2.5 more weeks of practice. You're going to get $1 million. All your players are going to get swag. I don't understand. Auburn decided they don't want to go to the bowl game. Okay, so all the seniors on Auburn, your career is over. Your career is over. The last game you played is a game when you took an overrated Alabama to the wire and lost in the Iron Bowl. Have a nice, tip of the cap for your career because, most of these guys aren't going pro, even the Power 4 programs. I would have thought they would go, I want one more. Give me one more. And I don't care if it's in the Tostitos Bowl against, whatever, Northern Arizona or some directional school I can't think of the top of my head right now.
Hey, real quick, with that, Danny D thought bowl practices were advantageous for teams next year. Well, Auburn, they have a new head coach, right? The South Florida head coach moved to Auburn, so who knows? Those teams that are in transition, if you have some stability, maybe the former coach at Auburn says, "Okay, let's play the bowl game." Considering they're going through a transition, maybe that has something to do with it, but probably more toward the money side that you're saying, Cuthbert. Want to just say, I want to shout out James Madison got into the college football playoff, and former Army wide receiver Isaiah Austin is a member of the James Madison Dukes. So he will be playing in a college football playoff game. Just want to shout that out. We talk about guys moving in the transfer window, maybe not moving so much at Army. Isaiah went to Iowa State last year, transferred to James Madison this year, and finds himself in the college football playoff. Pretty cool. Cool.
Elamidosi's in the college football playoff at Georgia.
What's that? Thank you. Go ahead. Yep.
And unfortunately, UVA didn't win yesterday, so Donovan Platt doesn't get to, and Arizona State's nowhere to be seen this year.
Yeah, but you're right. So Elamadozi from Georgia and Isaiah Austin from James Madison, maybe waving the black flag a little bit. Maybe just
I was watching that Virginia Duke game, and virtually every time somebody touched the ball early in the game, they would mention the guy's name, and they would say he's a transfer from some other school. And Duke's quarterback came from Tulane. Virginia had a bunch of guys. Their quarterback came from, help me here, North Texas,
Chandler Morris, right?
Yeah, North Texas. Okay, I mean, so there's two guys from the American going over to the ACC, and they're not alone. I mean, every year, this is a discussion for a later date, but every year you got 20, 30 guys making the move. Look at Indiana. I mean, it's the best case. The James Madison coach left. He took all his players with him, or the good ones. Went to Indiana, then he went and is spending all kinds of big money to keep these kids and get other kids, and they're the top team in the land. And this is the team with the second or worst number of highest numbers of losses in FBS, and suddenly they're the best team in the land. And then look what James Madison did. 2 years later, they're in the tournament. So their new coach brought a bunch of guys. It's amazing what's going on. You don't know who's going to be good year to year because of all the money being tossed around and the agents looking around. You can have a team that's 3-9 this year, and next year they could be playing for the national championship because they got 20 new players from someplace else. It's amazing.
I don't know how you feel, but I'm glad James Madison made it in. I'm glad that's a second group of 5 school made it in. And Notre Dame, you're not good enough. One more shout out before we get off the air. Former Army offensive line coach Matt Drinkle, in his first season at Central Michigan, led them to a bowl game, and they're going to be playing Northwestern in what is the old Motor City Bowl, essentially. So great. I've been following their team all year long. It's great to see Matt Drinkle have success in his first season at Central Michigan. Always was a very positive guy to talk to, brought a ton of energy to the Army program, and now is doing great things as a head coach. And just a shout out to Matt Drinkle. Guys, we really appreciate everybody that's been on and commenting. We thank Bill Wagner from the Capital Gazette Navy beat writer for dropping his knowledge for the first half an hour of this podcast. We're over 600 viewers right now. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank Cam Holloway, former Army offensive tackle, for joining us. Seth Mendelson from Black Knight Nation. Cuthbert, as always, from Sidelines Army. We're going to be at the Army-Navy game on Saturday, Seth and I in Baltimore. So we will likely podcast a week from today. We're going to check us out. Hopefully we'll be talking about an Army victory and the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, which we didn't even mention in our conversations. The Commander-in-Chief's trophy could be coming back to West Point if Army can upset Navy. Yeah, that would be something special, and we hope for a good game, a competitive game to showcase what these college football players and cadets and midshipmen are all about, because it's pure football at its finest. And we look forward to that. Guys, thanks a lot. Check out us on blackknightnation.com. Check us out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And we're out of here. Have a good night.
Go Army.
Pete Navy.